Welcome back, everybody, to the Pat Flynn Show. We are here with the Hebrew Hammer himself.
That's right. I'm no longer trolling your comments. I'm actually on the feed.
We brought him in. He caused enough trouble in the comment section that we're going to let the man clear his name. Ladies and gentlemen, the big boys are back in town.
That's right, the big boys.
The big boys. Pat and Aleks are here. Dude, it's been a minute since the big boys came out to play.
I know we've tried a couple of times to get something together, and I think the scheduling has just not been right. So I'm glad that it worked out this morning.
That's right. The Pat Flynn Show, where the big boys play. And we're going to talk about glute training. Kettlebells, are they the secret to building a superior posterior? And Aleks is going to be our man to do it. Talk about kettle booty. And the timing here is really appropriate because we are in the midst of the internationally known 300 Swings Kettlebell Challenge. We just started this week, gentle listeners, so it's not too late to hop in. If you're not already part of 300 Swings, the link is chroniclesofstrength.com/summer 300 swings. So if you want to support what we're doing here at the Pat Flynn Show, you want to have an awesome 30-day challenge, sign up. It's a great deal, and all proceeds are to my direct financial benefit. Aleks gets none of it, so
that's just another perk.
Yeah, so just so we all have that assurance. So Aleks, my friend, what is up?
Not much, man. It's been a good summer so far. I mean, I guess it's technically summer now, right? As of like the 21st.
It is. So see, Wisconsin was the opposite. We had like a really hot spring, and now we're having a very springy summer so far. So it's kind of weird.
We've actually been having a similar thing. There's been a lot of rain for whatever reason this year. Like yesterday, I checked the forecast. It's like, looks like it's just going to be cloudy, but no, rain all over the place, just at random intervals. So
sweet. Okay. So let's talk glute training then. All right. So what is, maybe we should talk about, look, people are attracted to glute training for the same reason they're attracted to ab training. There's an aesthetic appeal. We get that. Hey, and nothing wrong with that, right? You want to look good in your training. But Aleks, maybe you can help us understand why training the glutes matters, not just from an aesthetic perspective, but also a functional perspective. So let's set the stage there, and then we can talk about why the kettlebell is uniquely situated to help us achieve these goals. Is that cool?
Definitely.
Cool.
Well, number one, like Pat said, there's an aesthetic appeal to glute training. But the other thing to keep in mind is that strong and powerful glutes have a really nice carryover, not only into lower body training, as you would anticipate, but even into upper body training. So, for instance, last month, I did a challenge for my list called Superior Posterior, and it was about glute training using kettlebells. So you can see I'm very pro kettlebell for glute training. And there's a gal from Sweden who did the challenge. It just posted recently on my Facebook group that her pull-ups, her push-ups, and I think even her presses have improved since she started doing some of the glute movements that I included in there. And one of the reasons why, she said that she's able to get more ab activation out of it, because one of the things that people have a hard time with is they sit a lot. So their hip flexors get tight, which means that they really can't access their glutes the way they're supposed to. They've kind of always got the brakes on, let's say, which are the hip flexors, always in this kind of like state of tightness and tension. Mm-hmm. And then that means that you can't fully extend your hips, which means that you can't fully contract your abs. So it is no small thing to work on improving your glute strength and really functionality in any way. So whether you want to add strength and size, or you want to add some power and explosive speed, you owe it to yourself to train the glutes.
Yeah. So strong glutes like a strong core. I see parallels here, right? So we know that having a strong core, it has a sort of knitting effect, right? It kind of pulls everything together. It helps with functional athleticism, and it's almost like a force multiplier if you have a strong core, right? Same thing with the glutes, right? Strengthening the glutes, taking the brakes off, so to speak. It's going to have a functional carryover to maybe not everything else you're doing, but a lot of the other things you're doing. Also helps to protect your back, right? Always good. Mm-hmm. Gonna definitely help with a lot of the lower body exercises. There's no doubt. There's definitely gonna have a direct benefit there. In fact, you'll just be doing a lot of these lower body exercises to build your glutes. So you've got that. But I also see the other parallel between glute training and core training is this. I'd be curious if you agree, Aleks, is that yes, we know we get a lot of direct core work in a lot of just the big functional movements. We get the core going in the presses, we get the core going in front squats and stuff like that. However, there is benefit, I believe, to doing at least just some direct core training itself, like hollow holds and stuff like that. I would say something similar with the glutes, right? It's like, obviously you're getting glute activation in the deadlifts and the squat, like that. Of course you are, right? But there's other ways we can kind of like specifically target the glutes with a little extra special love, if you will, that I think is worth throwing into your training. Maybe not excessively, but at least occasionally. Do you agree with this?
I do agree.
Good, because I was ready to cut you right off the stream.
I know.
I got my finger on the button.
I'm watching my P's and Q's.
You are on thin ice, my friend. After your behavior in the comments yesterday. So.
After my behavior in the comments, like every day. I don't even know if you saw it when you, Jim, and Gavin were doing something. Like I posted a comment. You didn't acknowledge it. I was like waiting for it.
You're mouthing off again, yeah.
No, actually, I thought you'd find it funny. I wrote that I think we need to get Gavin some all-American weapons to put on his wall because he had all those
right.
like swords and stuff like that. Yes, I do like to do that. I do like to goof around in the comments.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Mr. Serious. Okay, so all right, kettlebell. Why is this a good tool for glute training? And let's talk about some ways to get her done.
Well, for one, it's very accessible, and some of the movements that are especially good for glute training, you don't necessarily need a barbell. You can use a barbell or dumbbells or what have you. I think barbell in some cases is a little bit awkward for people. I like the dojo background we've got.
Yeah, I was going to say, for the gentle listeners who are also gentle watchers, do you guys like you guys get a treat here. Do you like the dojo? Do you like Pat and Aleks at the beach? Or do you like Pat and Aleks under the stars? You can let us know in the comments. We'll stick with the dojo for now. So sorry, Aleks, go ahead.
Yes. But for instance, if you just have one kettlebell, there some of the movements that
big boys at the beach.
Boom! Out of nowhere, folks.
All right, sorry.
Out of nowhere. Some of the movements that you can do, even if it's a light kettlebell, can make a big difference. So for instance, let's say like goblet squats, for instance. Those are a really good option. And they lend themselves to moderate to higher reps, which is not necessarily as easy to do with double kettlebell front squats. It can be done. It's just more awkward because you're like wrestling with these bells. But likewise, you can do lunges, for instance, which are often maligned. I know Dan is not a big fan of lunges.
Yeah, so you've recently triggered Dan on multiple fronts, and I'm gonna take a couple steps back and let you clear your name. And then the rest is between you two. So
all right,
whoever you want.
Fair enough. First of all, Dan, if you're listening, obviously I'm still a fan, even if we have minor disagreements about exercise selection. Dan made a good point yesterday because he said when people ask him, why don't you like lunges? He's like, it's like asking me why I don't like a certain vegetable. Like, I just don't like the taste. Well, why don't you like the taste? So I think a lot of it does come down to people's individual tastes when it comes to the exercise.
Their individuality.
Correct. Exactly. But lunges are still a very good choice if you want to build the glutes. And this is not just my opinion. This is pretty widely accepted. And if you can skip them, if you really just don't like them, or for some reason you can't do them, they don't feel right for the knees or something like that. But at any rate, squats and lunges are very good for building the glutes. Deadlifts. Same thing. You have to go a little bit higher rep. I mean, you're not going to get by doing like just sets of 5, particularly with a light kettlebell. Likewise, single leg deadlifts, one of the best glute builders I know. And then finally, not really finally, I think that these really do come to the forefront, but hip thrusts are a phenomenal option also for building the glutes. And you notice I did not include swings there. And some people get a little offended by that. And they might think, oh, maybe Aleks doesn't like swings. I do like swings. And incidentally, I think that you should sign up for Pat's 300 Swings Challenge because it is going to give you all of the things that you actually want. If you're after glute hypertrophy, you'll probably still get it even with this challenge. Because if you're doing 300 swings a day, for what is it, like 30 days in a row, right?
Boom. Yeah, 30 days, 300 swings for 30 days, right?
You're going to see a result. But if you're short on time, so I mean, it's a little bit more of a time commitment. But that's the whole point of a challenge, is that you got to challenge yourself. But if you're a little bit tight on time, and glute building is something that's important to you, I think that those 4 movements will be a better option for a couple of reasons. One of them would be that there is a negative component to it, meaning like there's the eccentric phase during which you can generate 1.3 to 1.5 times the amount of tension in the eccentric phase of an exercise. You really don't have an eccentric in swings in the same way that you do with like squats and lunges and that sort of a thing, because that's just the nature of the movement. It's a momentum-based movement.
Yeah,
exactly. So you'll, without question, and incident, by the way, the reason Dan was calling me out yesterday is saying that I think that swings don't work the glutes. He's kidding around, but it is based off of an article that I wrote talking about why these 4 movements that I mentioned are a bit better option for building the glutes, because a lot of it comes down to simple time investment. So if you're investing in doing 300 swings a day, you're going to see some pretty awesome results all around, not just in how your glutes look, but also your explosive power, fat loss, your mental toughness. So there are a lot of benefits to doing
so let's position it like this, because as the people who are taking part in 300 swings know, is 300 swings is not exclusive to doing other things. And in fact, we do program other things around and in addition to our 300 swings. So Aleks, perhaps you could help us with this then. For somebody who really wants to focus on gluteal development, both in terms of function and aesthetics, what else would you be having them do with a kettlebell?
Well, okay, with a kettlebell.
Yeah, and say and just grant them the 300 swings already. So
right, you're already doing the 300 swings. I think that if you start your swing training off with some of these slow grind kind of movements, like I described, the squat, lunge, deadlifts, and hip thrusts, you're probably going to find that your swings are actually going to feel easier. Like one of the things I discovered a couple years ago when I first started doing hip thrusts was that when I would then do my swings, the heaviest bell I had at the time was a 32, but when I would then do my swings, the 32 just like floated much, much easier. And it makes sense if you think about it, because just like when you're learning kettlebells for the first time, you have to learn how to do slow movements first. So you have to do deadlifts, and things of that nature. Even, without the kettlebell, you have to do like the hinging movement, and then you work on deadlifts. So the better you get at moving slowly, the easier it is to move quickly. And this is something that you'll find in a variety of disciplines. Same thing with martial arts. If you can do something slowly, you can do it quickly, and you can probably do it with greater power. Like if you see somebody who can throw a really slow kick, like if Sam were here, he could probably demonstrate like a really slow side kick. And then you see him do it against the bag.
Former big boy, Sam.
Former big boy, correct. We have to amend that statement. But not while he's in our company, because he would easily, kick us dead. So.
He would side kick us, yes.
Yes, exactly. But then the same thing goes with other glute movements. And so, like, let's take the hinge, for example. If you can do a couple of good solid deadlifts, or again, like hip thrusts, and then after that, you start your 300 swings challenge, I think you're going to find it to be very productive. You're going to find that you are able to get more out of it. And actually, you'll probably find that the swing challenge will be easier, because you're going to be able to better tap into glutes and their power.
So talk to me about the hip thrust a little bit more, because that to me is kind of the parallel to something like a hollow hold. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So how are you programming that? Are you doing it with weight, without weight? What's your prescription there?
Yeah, initially, if you're brand new to things, I would recommend doing it without weight. The really important part about a hip thrust, according to Brett Contreras, who's the guy who kind of pioneered them, is the tension that you feel in the glutes. It's not necessarily the amount of weight. So sometimes people will pile a bunch of weight onto their hips, but then they can't fully lock their hips out because they're just using too much. It's beyond their capacity. So you'll be better off using either no weight or very light weight, and really getting a strong glute contraction at the top, and following that contraction as you're stretching. So when you get to meaning like as you're lowering your hips, you want to try to maintain some tension in the glutes as much as you can, even in that stretched position. And then at the top, really take advantage of the contraction. And the really nice thing is that, one of the drawbacks with a deadlift is that at the top, there's not necessarily really as much that you're like pushing against. So this is why, for instance, some people might like to use a rubber band around their waist to really increase. You have something to kind of push against and really get that contraction out of the glutes.
Right.
But with the hip thrust, it's built in because, like you said, with the hollow position, you know, you can stand in a hollow position, and you know your abs don't really have to work against anything. But if you are on your back in a hollow position, your abs now have to support your legs.
Yes.
They have to support your arms, and they have to do that without kind of opening up. So yeah, I think it's a good comparison, that it's similar to the hollow hold in that regard.
Yeah. So if you do want to start loading it up and you have a kettlebell, where do you put it? Do you put it on your privates?
On your sexy parts? Definitely not. Unless
I was just saying what everyone's thinking, right? So
I know, believe me, I know. I wouldn't do that.
Don't do it. Don't do that.
Yeah, I don't want anybody saying, "Oh, yeah, I just went to the emergency room because I, you know, crushed a ball." Or something. But
so what's the proper procedure here?
Right.
And I'll tell you, if you use language like that again, you were out of here, sir.
I'm on even thinner ice. Even thinner ice. I would where I always do it is I put it underneath the belly button. Like just underneath the belly button is going to be enough.
Smart.
What's that?
Smart.
Yeah, exactly. Just underneath the belly button should do the trick. There's probably only so far you're going to be able to go with a kettlebell like that, because I was doing some last week and I worked up to like 40 kilos, and it was just hard to breathe because the amount of weight pushing down on you. So you may need at some point to switch to a like a barbell. But I found, at least for me, that up to 32 kilos I was fine. 40 kilos, it just started getting uncomfortable because I just couldn't breathe very much. So
nice,
excellent.
Okay, so summary, and then maybe we'll take a question or two here if the gentle listeners want to send anything into the chat box. So aside from the kettlebell swing, Alex's top 5 glute building exercises with the kettlebell are fill in the blank.
I would say goblet squat and lunge, particularly if you're leaning forward slightly on both of them. So rather than being upright, stay kind of leaned. I would say the deadlift. And if you don't have a big enough weight, or you don't have 2 kettlebells, then I would say single leg deadlift or staggered stance deadlift would be a very good option. Hip thrust, you can do that like on a couch or a bench or anything like that. And then as far as a 5th one, I'm trying to think of what else I would really add. Personally, I would say if I were to add a 5th exercise.
Are you assuming a single leg deadlift under the conventional or staggered stance deadlift?
Yeah. Well, I would say either like
variations.
Yeah, exactly. So one of those, exactly, kind of like along that continuum. But for a 5th one, I'm not really sure what I would put in if the goal is building some size. I can tell you personally that the best results I've ever gotten in terms of my own glute strength was when I was doing hill sprints 3 times a week. Now the drawback to that is that I think, similar to swings, it's not very time efficient. And then it's probably an even less good choice than swings.
Okay, all right, let's do this instead of a 5th kettlebell exercise, because I appreciate the minimalism, right? Let's not cook the chicken any longer than what's needed.
Correct.
Give us a non-kettlebell exercise.
Then I would definitely go with the sprint, but with a big caveat, because as much as I mean, again, I've seen the absolute best results from sprints. But the problem is that not everybody's right for sprints. You have to be very well put together. You have to move very well and be very well coordinated. Hill sprints in particular, even though hill sprints are a better option than just sprinting on a flat surface. The issue is that not everybody's gonna be able to do it. It's also a little bit more time consuming to get the kind of results that you're after. But you can get some really, really good results if you do that. So that would be my personal option, but it may not be right for everyone.
Last one, and then we'll take a question or two from the gentle listeners. They're doing 300 swings. They want to work in some of these supplementary exercises. What is your minimum effective dose in terms of sets and reps?
1 set. I would say, yeah, because what you want to do is you want to keep, like Dan says, keep the goal. So the last thing that you want to do is all of a sudden decide, oh, you know what, I'm going to do 300 explosive hip hinges every single day. And then I'm also going to add in, like 100 of these. You are going to be a hurting unit in a very short order. So what I would do is keep it light, and maybe only do 2 of those on a given day. So maybe one day you would do, like, let's say, lunges and deadlifts for 1 set of a very moderate amount, and use it with the intention of priming yourself for the 300 swings. And then the next day, maybe you're going to go like hip thrust and squat. Again,
so what are we talking, like 8 to 15 reps? We're saying moderate amount?
I would say at a maximum 15, maybe even like 8 to 12, something like that.
Yeah.
Just like slow, smooth, really focusing more on the contraction than on the weight, and certainly not trying to get a workout from it. You're going to use that again to prime your hips to be really explosive and bring your sense of exertion when you're doing the swings down a bit, so that the 300 is less daunting. It's going to be something where it's almost like, like you're over prepared as a workout. That's
excellent. Yeah, so the frequency is going to do the work there, because you're going to be doing something like that in addition to 300 swings every day. Awesome. Good. Thank you for that, Aleks. All right, if you guys got a question, submit it. We'll take one or two here, and then I got to go. I'm going to a baseball game today, Aleks. Professional sporting event.
I'm impressed. You're not coming to Omaha, are you?
No, we're going down to the old Brewers Stadium here in Milwaukee.
Yeah, because we've got the College World Series going on here in Omaha.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. Yes. Nope. So, somebody's got tickets. They asked if I want to go, and I said,
heck yeah.
I'll bring the charred fatty meat. All right, our buddy Raju says, I'm currently on day 3 of 300 swings and Dan's fighter pull-up program. Would adding dips into this mix result in any sort of overtraining? He missed yesterday's stream. You missed a stream? What?
You got to watch it. Dan totally called me out, and it was very funny.
Yeah, we had a good time. So are you familiar with Dan's fighter pull-up program?
I know of the Fighters pull-up program, which, Pavel didn't even really create. He just kind of wrote about it. It was like a pre-existing program. I don't know how, I don't know what Dan's looks like, actually.
Yeah. So my general response would be this is, I think it depends, right? So I think that the fighter pull-up and the 300 swings is going to go well together. But I want to say a couple things. One is I want to reiterate the point that Aleks made is, keep the goal the goal. And people get in this tendency of they keep adding stuff, and then to the point where they're not even doing anything that remotely resembles what they started with in the first place, right? Like things just keep morphing and changing, and then you just lose all consistency. So always keep that in mind when I give a piece of advice like this. And Raju, I'm not even saying that this is your issue. This is just a general piece of advice. I think if you were to do dips, I would do 10 reps a day and get it done in various fashion, just easy strength style. So, maybe one day you're doing 2 sets of 5, another day you're doing 5 sets of 2. And I would do it not even every day. I would do it 4 to 5 days a week. Aleks, what are your thoughts on this?
I think that's probably the way to go. I think the thing with dips is that some people's shoulders don't appreciate them. So you have to be ready to do. It's kind of like running, like you don't run to get in shape. You get in shape to run. And I think with dips, for instance, if your shoulders can handle them, then, by all means. But I think a minimum daily dose, if you're going to do them daily, is going to be better than doing a lot. Like with push-ups, you can do a lot every day. Bodyweight squats, same thing. It's not likely to be really problematic. Dips and pull-ups, I think you need to be a little bit more careful, at least initially. So I would echo Pat's statements.
Yeah, so I would, again, it depends on how proficient you are at dips. I love dips. I do a fair amount of dips, but I've been doing them for many years. If you're kind of just now introducing dips into your training cycle, I think 10 reps a day with a light to moderate intensity, assuming that assuming that body weight isn't that difficult for you for like 5 to 10 reps. Which frankly it shouldn't be. So a light to moderate intensity for the 10 reps a day. I would not push super heavy with it at first. 4 to 5 days a week, and then mix it up. One day you might just do 1 set of 10 reps at body weight. That would be fine. I probably wouldn't do 10 sets of 1. I would probably exclude that. I think 5 sets of 2 might be your most intense way of going about it, or even 3 sets of 3. I know people freak out about that because technically that's only 9 reps, but I want you to actually live with the OCD. Don't do that extra rep. I want you to leave the gym with a great sense of agitation, right? Mental toughness there.
Yeah, it'll spur you on to work harder the next day.
Right, and then I want you to go to the gas pump and fill up your tank to like $29.99 and leave it at that, and drive away. Let it go. Just let it go. These aren't things that ever personally haunt me, Aleks.
No, not at all. I saw a great picture, by the way, of somebody who had a circumstance like that. It was like they were at like an exact number of gallons. It was like, let's say like 20 gallons, but then it was like 49.99. And so it was like they had to choose, do I go slightly over on the gallons and then, you know, get the $50 even, or what do I do?
That would send me into a spasm.
I'm glad that I was not in that circumstance. That would have been
stressing me out. Even the hypothetical stresses me out. We'll pray for that, man. Trench says, no question, just say heartfelt thank you for all the stuff you guys are sharing. Best regards from Germany. Trench.
Well,
you are a mensch.
Yeah, Trench the mensch. I would say, bitte, mein Herr. I hope that was.
How much German do you speak?
That was it.
that exhausts it, right?
I know a couple of swear words and a couple of other things.
Of course you do.
Yeah, that's about it.
All right, so Aleks, let's wrap up. What are you working on? What do you want to tell the people about? What's going on over at the podcast?
I've got one that I'm going to be putting out pretty soon. I've been busy with some other topics, but I would say that if you like bodyweight training and kettlebell training, and I'm guessing that you do because you are here right now with Pat and yours, Julie, you can go to my website at alexsalkin.com and you can get my 9-minute kettlebell and bodyweight challenge. It is a free PDF. It is yours, and it is enjoyable. And then I would also say that sign up for the 300 Swings Challenge. It is iconic for a reason, folks. Do not miss it.
It is. Well, thank you, good sir. We will have the big boys back again here soon. Pat Flynn Show, where the big boys play. And for all of you gentle listeners, please do like, subscribe. Come join us for the 300 Swings Kettlebell Challenge. If you're not already enrolled, we would certainly love to have you. And we will catch you guys on the next episode. Adios.